Hi, and a big 2025 welcome from the team here at Dux Soup. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and New Year break. Unfortunately, for the whole team today, we don't seem to be able to share our beautiful faces. So instead, you'll have to listen to our wonderful voices. Today marks our first webinar of the year and one we always look forward to as we get to share our plans for the upcoming year with all of you. Before we get the ball rolling, let me start by properly introducing myself, the voice behind the face that you can't see. I'm Jo Henderson and I'm a member of marketing crew for Dux Soup, and you'll usually find me here on screen at this very time every 2 weeks. Today we're joined by Will van der Zanden, the founder of Dux Soup, Adam Osman, the head of marketing, and Giles Garnett, head of professional services. And Adam, if you flick on to the next slide, I think, see, there we go. You can all see those wonderful faces while you're listening to me. If you have any questions for us as we go through the content for today, which is all about the upcoming year with Dux and LinkedIn, then you can add them into the question box on your GoToWebinar dashboard, and Giles or myself will share them with the team at the end of the session. We'll also share any useful links that we mention in the chat function, as well as sending out the recording to you all later today. I will be back at the end of this session to share a bit of exciting news for the coming year, as well as details of our next webinar in 2 weeks' time. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Adam. Fire away.
Thanks very much, Jo. So if you haven't come across me before, I'm Adam Osman, the head of marketing for Dux Soup. I've been with Dux for around 6.5 years. In particular, over the last year, I've really enjoyed speaking to more customers and prospects, and that's really informed some of the insights that we want to share with you today. So we did a similar presentation to this around a year ago, and I had 3 predictions as to what we might expect to see in terms of marketing trends and lead generation trends in 2024. So I just wanted to revisit those before we look at the insights for 2025. So a year ago, I talked about the people really tuning into the possibilities that AI, the use cases for AI, and I think that really came to its fore this year, or rather last year. We saw a lot of people using AI for doing things like either creating good campaign messaging or sharpening up existing messaging and cutting down the time to create those campaigns, all the way through to people with some quite innovative use cases. So combining ChatGPT, Dux Soup and LinkedIn to scrape data and build some pretty large databases at very low cost and effort. So I think that the possibilities of AI for improving business outcomes, productivity, results was the definite tick. Really felt there was going to be a real focus on producing high quality content. Gen AI makes it really easy for anyone to create content, but if your LinkedIn newsfeed is anything like mine, you're already starting to be flooded with almost too much content. So you start to focus in on the ones that you know are going to have value, provide you with insights, and be really useful. So I think that was another tick. And then the third prediction really was the focus on good, robust foundational marketing principles. So everything from integrating your messaging across multiple platforms, be they LinkedIn, websites, social media, integration at a technical level within your marketing stack. So combining LinkedIn outreach with email or with your CRM system, definitely something we saw a lot of interest in towards the back end of the year, in particular when we launched our Salesforce integration. So I think those 3 probably pretty much all came true. So what we want to do is really just set the scene for you in terms of why we think LinkedIn is still really the compelling place to be for lead generation. And I returned to one of my favorite graphs, which came from HubSpot, and they looked at the value, the conversion rates, the efficiency that you get from different social media channels. And you can see by the blue bar, LinkedIn absolutely blows away the likes of Facebook and X and Twitter. We also can extend that to say, if you look at LinkedIn as a lead generation channel and compare it to email or cold calling, the ROI that you get from LinkedIn is hugely off the scale. So what we wanted to do really is share some insights that we generated from our own market research that we carried out at the B2B Marketing Expo, which took place at the end of last year. So if you look at the photo in the top left, we were delivering a presentation all about mastering LinkedIn outreach, but focusing on the strategy and the best practices. So the presentation was hugely attended, standing room only, and a lot of people came back to talk to us at the stand, and they were really interested in our message around it's the strategy and the tactical execution that's important rather than the technology. The technology, Dux, LinkedIn automation, gives you the ability to scale up your outreach, and LinkedIn gives you that audience, but having the right strategy and tactical approach is really what sets I think successful marketers apart. So we had 141 people complete our market research survey looking at different aspects of lead generation, and let's share 3 insights with you today. The first question really looked at what lead generation channels people are using. Unsurprisingly, I think email still top. Almost 9 out of every 10 of the respondents were using email. Probably goes back to the fact that email is pretty much where everyone starts for lead generation. But social media, the purple bar at nearly 8 out of 10, I think is really interesting. So people using different social media channels for lead generation purposes, which I think is fantastic to see. The next bar along the gold yellow, 55% still using events and trade shows. And personally, my whole background is B2B marketing, and I think events and trade shows pretty much died after COVID and lockdown. But in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a real rebound in good quality trade shows, and we certainly saw that with the B2B Marketing Expo, where we were inundated with interest from people who were actively researching marketing tools and people who were in the buying phase for LinkedIn automation technology, which I think sort of underlines that sort of figure of 55%. What we saw was this really broad mix. If you look at pay-per-click advertising, used by around a third, which I think is a good element of a broad marketing mix. And webinars and content strategy, 2 techniques that we use ourselves at Dux Soup, still very popular amongst people in terms of what channels they use for lead generation. And then the channel sponsorships and affiliates sort of rounded off the list. But Will, I wanted to bring you in here. Cold calling at 37%. Was that a surprise? Is that what you expected to see?
Thanks, Adam. Well, no, it's not really a surprise. I think the use of cold calling, we will see for many more years to come. It is a go-to strategy for just a lot of people who are currently in a position to organize the marketing or outreach, and it's just a lot of people, they come from cold calling. So when you ask them to do some business development or lead generation, they will start a cold calling campaign, sort of, because that's just what they do. And I think, yeah, it will take many years before that to fully die out. And to be honest, I think the effectiveness of a lot of those campaigns is going to be quite minimal. I don't know about you, but I get quite a few calls from telemarketers, and I just add them to a spam list and to stop them coming through. And I think with me, many people just don't accept any more calls at all that they don't know who the source is. So, but even still, yeah, I think that the main driver here really is just the people organizing the business development. They come from that background, so that's just what they do.
Interesting, and I do agree with that to a great extent, because I know people who are very good at cold calling, but generally cold calling is a really hard game. And we know, I think if you were to repeat this survey over the next 2 or 3 years, I would expect to see the percentages around cold calling and email start declining. But Giles, if I can bring you in here, how does this sort of tally up with what you hear when you're talking to customers and how they see their lead generation?
Hi Adam, thanks. Hi everyone, it's Giles here from Dux Soup, head of professional services, and you usually hear me on these webinars most weeks. And happy New Year to everybody. Yeah, I mean, this is reflective of what I see on a day-to-day basis. People are migrating away from emailing and other platforms and moving more towards social media, primarily LinkedIn in my experiences with the calls I have, of course. But you see, you know, a lot of people have always done, like Will just mentioned, that cold calling. That's their default setting. Emailing, you can send out thousands of emails and you feel like you're being productive. Even if you're getting a very low rate of return, if you're getting some return, it is worthwhile doing, or people can justify doing it. But what we're saying is, you know, and over the last 5-6 years that I've worked with Dux Soup, we've seen, you know, a real explosion in the maturity, it's a sort of development, the maturity of people using LinkedIn as a lead generation platform. And we are seeing, you know, more and more multi-channel approaches. You know, there was a brief period a couple of years ago, I think, when Woodpecker first built their integration with Dux Soup, for example, Woodpecker being a cold email outreach platform. You know, a lot of multi-channel approaches, which could involve emailing and LinkedIn and WhatsApping and cold calling, whatever it may be. People really trying to build a multi-channel approach with varying levels of success. What you do consistently see is the response rates, and I think we'll see data later on in the presentation to back this up. Response rates on LinkedIn are far and away higher than on other platforms, cold emails, cold calling, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Giles, and I think it backs up a comment that we have from one of our customers who is a startup in the world of electric vehicles. So obviously they had a clean sheet when it came to designing their marketing strategy and how they're going to generate leads for the business. And after using Dux Soup for a year, they basically said it is our core lead generation channel for bringing new leads into the business. So if you think this is a company that had a choice of all of the different channels, is headed up by a very experienced person in the marketing and marketing field, but they decided and they worked out that what worked best for them was LinkedIn automation, which I think is really interesting. So if we look at the next question that we wanted to survey, which was trying to understand what was the primary objective for the people who were using LinkedIn automation. And unsurprisingly, 3/4, the blue bar at the left, 3/4 cited bringing leads into the business, lead generation as their most common, most important objective. But I found the next two, which are really quite interesting, which shows how companies are using automation to drive other marketing objectives, for example. So for example, building brand awareness, I think, I'm not sure what colour that is, maroon, it's almost 54%. Obviously a key goal for many people working in B2B. But I think actually a lot of these results, although we talked about B2B, probably would be fairly similar if we were doing B2C, the business to consumer world as well. So brand awareness, I think, is building that brand awareness is a natural outcome from doing LinkedIn automation. Could you start with expanding your network and then you spend some time communicating with people? One of the key aspects, and in addition to direct outcomes such as driving downloads or inquiries, booking calls, is going to be raising awareness. And then the blue bar, 46%, I think that is, driving traffic to the company website. So for me, this is all about maybe within your campaigns, you're looking to drive people to download other assets, go to landing pages, or maybe you're starting your conversation on LinkedIn and you're looking to migrate it off LinkedIn and into a channel that you own, so you can continue that conversation. And I think the purple bar, nurturing existing relationships. So we know that automation works really well when it comes to keeping your contacts warm, for example, because not everyone's going to be within the buying phase, particularly in B2B, where the buying cycle could be anywhere from 3 to 24 months. So using LinkedIn automation to drive in a very efficient way those nurturing touch points. And again, if I can open it up to yourself, Will, how does this tally with what you hear from customers and the direct conversations that you have?
Yeah, I would definitely say that well, the customers, obviously the customers that we have, they're already very much in using LinkedIn for lead generation purposes. So it's probably a bit more biased Also because our tool set is much more geared towards the actual lead generation aspect of using LinkedIn, as opposed to the well, some of the other goals that we have here. But generally, what I see in talking to or here and talking to customers is that that they are really happy with the success rate of using LinkedIn for this purpose. As the quote you just mentioned, that is just one of the many examples where customers, when comparing on what channel works best for them, very often, especially in B2B context, LinkedIn just is the place to go for good responses.
I completely agree. And Giles, anything to add to that from the conversations you've had with customers?
Yeah, when I've unmuted myself. Other things to mention here, really. Yeah, the conversations I've had in the last year or so, especially, is, as I mentioned earlier, the user base is maturing in its approach, and it's not just about 5 years ago, get as many connection requests out there as possible, play the numbers game, and even if you get a low response rate, it doesn't matter. As long as you're getting a response rate. Actually, what you're seeing now is people focusing on getting better quality leads, using LinkedIn to make themselves more visible, making sure that their profile is visible, their profile's up to date and relevant for their target audience. And you're seeing a general maturing of the approach towards that, and people. The net result of that is rather than the scattergun approach that you had maybe 5 years ago, you've now got a much more targeted, focused approach, which means you get better quality leads in the long term as well.
It's absolutely sensible and echoes, I think, what we're all hearing across the board, that targeted, precise approach. It's a fundamental, I think, bedrock of what you do with your LinkedIn campaign. So if we look at the third of the insight areas we want to talk about, we ask people, what challenges do you face when it comes to using LinkedIn automation for lead generation? I don't think I had any specific expectations here, but really interesting to see that ensuring personalization was the #1 challenge. And I know when we have Scott Wright, our head of sales, talking on these webinars, he often talks about how do we maintain the authentic tone of voice? How can we not appear cringy and robot-like with our messaging? And I know obviously within Dux Soup we have placeholders and tags where you can personalize by bringing in people's first names or making reference to the company or the industry sector. So I think that personalization was quite interesting, and it was closely followed by managing your daily outreach limits. And again, that touches on what you just said, Giles, about 5 years ago, LinkedIn automation and LinkedIn lead generation was a numbers game. It really was a volume play. Send out loads of stuff and see what comes back. But over time, I think the approach has matured, and very much, we know that if you're using Dux Soup, we keep you within the safe limits on LinkedIn. So if you're running multiple profiles, you can massively scale up your outreach, for example. And we've seen a lot of use cases around this. And we're launching my favorite story later on in January, which is a company called HD Insights, where they have one person running 9 profiles. And in the last 2 years, they've generated leads that have led to closed business of $1.5 million, which is absolutely amazing. It shows what you can do using automation technology, but still also staying safe within the outreach limits. And I think the purple bar again, analytics and data was cited by 19%. So people like to keep on top of their campaigns. They like to see use the funnel and the Dux Dash to see how their campaigns are reporting. If they're looking to tweak any settings, see the impact on campaigns, which is obviously really important in the whole implement, measure, optimize cycle. Will, if I can come to you again, were you surprised that staying safe on LinkedIn was just cited by around 13.5%?
No, not so much. I think the main reason for that is really that a lot of people who are currently using LinkedIn for lead generation, they are just not really into the heavy outreach. They are more into sharing content and building followers on a page. So very much low low outreach sort of work that doesn't really involve automation probably at this point, and therefore is not also hitting any boundaries within that are in LinkedIn. So I think, yeah, a lot of people just are not really in that phase yet. Actually, I think one of the surprises that I find in here is that the lack of integration is not mentioned. So that data that is available on LinkedIn is so siloed inside LinkedIn. I would imagine that a lot of people are struggling to get, well, for example, well, we've seen this, for example, page followers and but also newsletter subscribers. Getting those lists out of LinkedIn is, well, actually, it's not even possible unless you use something to extract that, like Dux Soup can do for you. And I think, yeah, so that is, I think, one of the biggest surprises for me. And maybe it's just something that people will just encounter also later in the sort of adoption cycle of using LinkedIn for their outreach. So once they build a list of followers, then suddenly realize, oh, hang on, I can't actually get to them. But yeah, we'll see.
I've heard that comment from some of the customers. Again, I think they start off with all this enthusiasm about building the network, and then, oh crikey, what do we do next? But Giles, anything to add in terms of the insights around challenges?
No, I mean, to me, the discussions I have with people, you know, their absolute key number one question is usually how many actions can I carry out? How can I make sure my LinkedIn account doesn't get into trouble? Which of course is of paramount importance to us, because if people aren't LinkedIn users, then they're not Dux Soup customers. So keeping your LinkedIn account safe, of course, is top of our priority list as well. So no, I mean, there is, you know, this is pretty reflective of what I see. You know, daily outreach limits, keeping safe on LinkedIn. And then, yeah, with some of the more mature users, depending on the complexity of campaigns, then yeah, personalization is also important.
And just picking up again on Will's point about integration or being cited, I had a quick look just at the responses we had in the freeform other, and the two most popular responses where people had ticked the other box were how to maintain the authentic touch with messaging and having enough quality time to spend on campaigns. So I think that's, again, it probably plays nicely to the strengths of Dux Soup as a LinkedIn automation platform. So we've looked at some interesting insights, and what I wanted to do before I hand over to Will is look at three trends which I think you might see being important in 2025. There were a lot of reports and articles and blogs that came out at the back end of last year and beginning of this year. And I've picked out three key points from three reasonably well-known industry bodies. So Forrester talked about, again, expecting 2025 to be a year around more automation, more AI, more use cases. But they had a warning, which is beware of poorly implemented projects, because if you do this stuff badly, it will impact on your productivity, it will impact on your results, it will impact on your brand. Accenture talked about you know, the proliferation of AI-generated content, be it video, be it text, is raising trust challenges. How are people going to work out what information they can trust? So a real focus on authenticity, which comes back to what I said at the start, which is, I think, if you can focus on your own authentic voice and building good quality content, that will help stand you out. And the Content Marketing Institute, I had a really nice quote in one of their reports, and they said, you know, when it comes to building trust, content is your number one currency for doing so. So again, hopefully these insights will give you some kind of idea as to what to expect in 2025. So I'll hand over to Will now to talk about, well, what are you going to get excited about that's coming up in Dux Soup as a LinkedIn automation platform for 2025. Over to you, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Adam, and yeah, happy New Year to everyone. I forgot to add that. So yes, it's 2025. So yeah, we always look a bit ahead to see where we're going this year. And well, the overall planning of our products is based loosely on a number of, well, on customer feedback, on market trends, and our own vision. And we're just going to look at some of the trends that we're seeing that are going to influence, or at least a big part of the development effort. And yeah, so the main three are listed here, and I'll just talk you through it. So LinkedIn as a channel, we're just seeing still the rise and rise of LinkedIn being used as a mainstream outreach channel. More and more SMEs, also larger enterprises that we're seeing in our own customer base, adopting the LinkedIn lead generation or LinkedIn for lead generation approach. And this obviously will require, well, this brings new requirements around handling large team sizes, standardized and formalized processes. So that is one area that we're looking at. The multi-channel sales automation. At least I have seen many new tools coming out in the last year that bring basically the combination of data enrichment and multi-channel automation together with well in one package. And I think this sort of it's both CRMs that are sort of expanding in that area, but also there are new tools that are popping up left, right, and center, and a lot of those tools are requiring or promising LinkedIn outreach. And as an example, as Giles mentioned a second ago, we have Woodpecker that used or that built the integration with Dux Soup for the purpose of LinkedIn, adding LinkedIn to their channels. We also have LeadFuse that a while ago already added Dux Soup as a way of providing LinkedIn to their list of channels. More recently, we had Common Room that announced the integration with Dux Soup, and yeah, so I'm expecting more of that to come in the future, just because the channel is just proven so clearly to be effective. And the last one here, and well, you can't really go around AI. So in the first sort of year, let's say 2 years ago, AI was mostly around, as Adam already mentioned, about generating content. Now we're just seeing this to be more and more used also for data enrichment. And I would expect also, well, also for intelligent messaging, and just other parts of the lead gen process are getting more and more sort of benefits from AI. So we're definitely looking into how we can make sure that yeah, that we align with that. And next slide. And from that, I've sort of distilled these 3 areas, key areas of development for the coming year. These are by no means the only areas of development. It will become a really long session if we did that. So the first on the list here, the cloud agency. So we launched cloud agency in April last year, and we've seen a lot of uptake on that. A lot of customers also scaling up to well, levels and requesting more features around how they use cloud agency. And that's just the nature of software, in my experience. So once you put a baseline product out there, then people start using it. So we're getting real requirements from our customers there, and we're making sure that we build the product that to match those requirements. And there will definitely be a lot of new features around the cloud agency to make it really into a single sort of dash that people are used for their outreach. And the extension free outreach, it also that comes with the it's sort of part of the agency track, but what we're seeing is that as the teams who are running the LinkedIn outreach get more and more sort of distributed across different sorry, I just got a Slack message. But that was confusing. So as we're seeing, so the teams are more and more spread out. So different people in a team will require to be handling different parts of the lead generation process, and that becomes a bit tricky with our requirement that For a lot, you do need the extension installed. So the plan is to eradicate the requirement completely, so that anyone who wants to participate in this process can use either the CRM or the dash, and most likely just use the API and build your own functions to handle those functions. And then thirdly, and that sort of fits with the what we're seeing in all the different tools out there, the multi-channel tools that are all looking to also include LinkedIn in their outreach channels. So we're looking, there in the same way that we've done built the product in a very self-service fashion, so that our customers, they really can just go and download our software and start using it without having to contact us for this, that, or the other. It's fully self-service in that way. And the aim is really also for our partners and OEMs to be able to connect and start onboarding their own clients onto Dux Soup in a fully self-service fashion, just so we can handle more and a great variety of partners and OEMs there. And yeah, like I said at the start, these are just the 3 headline tracks. There are many other areas of development, but yeah, those I can't list all. Next slide.
I think it's also worth adding there before we jump on to the next slide. Also, that we do have our our feedback pages which we use to receive feedback from our users. So if there are sufficient user demands, that will also help drive our development. I mean, what Will's mentioned here, I think, is some crucial stuff there, especially with the way we're seeing the marketplace mature at the moment, and different functionality being made available on different platforms, and how we can be part of that and facilitate that. But I think some of the core functionality, if there's sufficient demand in other areas as well for further functionality development within Dux Soup, of course that will happen based upon user feedback as well.
Yeah, no, good point, John. So we're obviously at the at the sort of the core functionality in terms of automation, and like I said, what we see on the feedback board, that will obviously is a track on its own.
Joe, if I could hand over to you.
Yeah, sure. I've just noticed, I don't know what the slides have been doing, but there's multiple things on that screen that aren't supposed to be there, but never mind, you'll get the gist. From my perspective, so over the last few months, Adam and I have been working hard speaking with some of our most successful users to gain insights into their killer tactics when it comes to LinkedIn success and how they use Dux Soup. So for this year, for those of you who don't know, Dux Soup will be 10 years old. So it's our 10th anniversary this year. And so we've decided to make some really, what I feel is very exciting changes in terms of our user journey and how we engage with our users. So we're launching this podcasting series, which will be announced through our social channels in the next few weeks. So if you're anything like me and you're sitting on the train or you're standing on the sidelines at a sports match and you're kind of wanting a little bit of inspiration, then that's exactly the kind of place that you'll be able to get it from. So that will be launched in the next few weeks. The other exciting piece of news, which I've clearly got overexcited with because you can see the logo there far too many times, is that we're moving away from our existing webinar platform, Go2, and we're moving to a new one, which you may have guessed, the name of it is On24. It will allow us to have much more engagement with all of you guys before, during, and even after the webinar sessions. So we'll be able to run multiple sessions across multiple time zones and even tailor the content that we share during the sessions to your industry or your role or the kind of organization that you're working for. So it means that the sessions will be much more relevant to you as an audience. So for me, I obviously manage the webinar series, and I'm normally the face that you'll see at the start. So I'm really excited about this, which is why the team have decided to give into me and let me have it as a present for the year, I reckon, because I was ringing on about it for so long. So I'm really excited about that as well. We will be starting with the new platform in February. So our next webinar will still be on this current platform, but hopefully the first one that we host in February will be on the new platform, which is super exciting. So there's loads of other stuff that we've got in the pipeline for this year. From our perspective, we're also talking about how we can better support you with smaller open mic sessions, that we can kind of encourage more user interaction between yourselves as well, but we'll get more on that out later this year, hopefully. So from me, that's kind of my areas of development that I wanted to let you all in on. So thanks for letting me have a slide in there, guys.
Very cool.
Great slide. It was a marvelous slide, Joe. So you'll also notice the floating 10 balloon, and that's a reference back to in 2025. Dux Soup will celebrate its 10th anniversary. So anyone involved in running a business knows how tough it can be. So the fact that Dux is getting to its 10th birthday, I think, is a really important milestone, and we'll be looking to celebrate that in a number of different ways, and we'll keep you posted on that during the year. So hopefully you've enjoyed hearing some of these insights. Just wanted to see, Giles, have there been any questions that have come in?
Yeah, lots of sort of general questions about Dux Soup. Really, I mean, there's and various things about, you know, integrations and stuff. So Torsten, for example, asked, what about close CRM as a native CRM integration? Now I point there towards the feedback page. You know, it's not one that has been requested before, but if there is sufficient demand, that can help drive that kind of request. And now there you go. I see I'm answering the questions as they come in now. So one here for Will, perhaps. Let's have a look and see where it's gone. It's disappeared off my page. Which CRM works best with LinkedIn and Dux Soup? There you go, Will.
So in terms of the way that Dux Soup integrates with the CRM and the capabilities that it brings, I would say there is, between HubSpot, Pipedrive, and Salesforce, which was just launched, the Pipedrive works the best at the moment. The sort of the missing functionality that you'll see, which is the more around batch-related, queuing of outreach, will be added this month to both HubSpot and Salesforce as well. So those three will be at the same level, really, in terms of the capabilities that they bring. I think we also have two smaller CRMs, if memory serves me right. But those three will be really at the sime level.
The other two being Fresh Sales and Sharp Spring. But I think the Pipedrive one, that integration has now been in place for coming up to 4 years. So it is a very mature product from that perspective. It's our most widely used one, followed, I think, by HubSpot. That's a great question. Thank you for that, Susan. Question again from Torsten. What about other languages? What I am seeing, if tools like this being used in another than the latest native language the tool is built for, the result can become questionable. What's your view on that? Maybe Adam, from a marketing perspective and languages and stuff like that?
Well, as far as I'm aware, we support, is it 9 or 10 languages? So I think the core functionality within the platform is will continue working irrespective of which language. It then becomes, I guess, a UI or UX, user experience. And certainly, you know, we haven't had, I've not certainly come across anyone who has had any issues really with using Dux Soup, you know, talking to users in far-flung places like Brazil or Germany. So, you know, the user base, certainly from what I'm hearing, hasn't had any challenges with regards to using Dux Soup in different languages. And we always still get more requests for other languages to be added. And I guess we follow the same principle really. In terms of if there's sufficient demand, then we'll look at creating or doing the necessary legwork behind the scenes to have Dux Soup available in a new language.
And can you just add to that, from a product development viewpoint? So there is, well, I think it's also because our customer base or a user base more than a customer base maybe is changing well with every year, and our core extension, which is really what started it all years ago, is available in all those languages. But the current dashboard is not multi language, and that is definitely something that we were aiming to fix last year, but it didn't quite make the cut. But all the preparatory work has been done so that really the way that the extension basically will match your local operating system's language. The dash will also match your language. I think you could probably use there are probably tools out there that already can auto translate it on the fly, but it is also on our radar and it was already last year to make sure that the dash really is in line with what the extension does in terms of localization.
Yeah, and just to add a final little bit to that as well, you know, if you are reaching out in different languages to you know, depending on what your target audience, just make sure you're filtering your searches on LinkedIn to people whose profiles are in whichever your chosen language is, to make sure you're targeting correctly, because you know it's about matching your campaigns to your target audience, of course.
Absolutely.
Another question from Susan, so maybe Joe can help us out with this one. Susan's asking, you know, she used Dux Soup when it first came out, so you know, somebody who's returning to the platform, wanting to know where she can find some tutorials. I pointed Susan towards some blog pages, some getting started guides. But Joe, where can our users find the tutorials, the guides to take them through from a video perspective?
I'm just about to send the link actually to Susan, and I'll do it across the channel for everybody. So if you go onto our YouTube pages, then in there we've got a whole list of videos, but we've also got a whole load of short tutorials, so you can pick out specific aspects, and they're literally like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes long. So Susan, I think that's probably where you want to go, and it's almost like an onboarding process, so you can go right from the basics right through to the more advanced stuff, but they're just in like 2-minute snippets, and from there you can then go and look into some of the blogs and the knowledge pages to get a bit more detail once you're a bit more clued up on how it all works. So I'm just going to the channel now to find that, and I'll send it across to you shortly.
Cool, thank you for that. Somebody mentioned here, any update on Zoho CRM direct integration?
I guess that one is for me. Well, no, there is no update on that at this point. We are definitely planning on adding more integrations as we've seen that there's a lot of people out there who are really who require this. And again, it's also in the context of this different or slightly mature audience in terms of the way that these people or customers, I should say, really work in larger teams where CRMs are more commonplace than in smaller organizations. We obviously just added Salesforce. We got a few other ones. I'm not going to mention any names because that will just sound like we're going to be expanding the number of integrations throughout the year by I would say at least one every couple of months.
Excellent, that's good to hear. Yeah, there are a number, which are regularly banded around, but I think you're right. Without until we've got a clear definition as to where we're going on that, I think it's important that we don't name names, shall we say?
No, just to add some context to that, I mean, it's just a small detail maybe for listeners, but there's also some of the CRMs that people are asking for, and also that we want to integrate with. They are really impossible to get a hold of, and well, like a HubSpot or a Pipedrive, they really make it easy to integrate. But a lot of CRMs out there also, they make it really hard to even integrate. Even though they provide an API, if you're not paying, then you basically, then you can't talk to them.
Yeah, the accessibility of the integration side of things. I mean, I've spoken to a number of providers of different platforms in the past whereby there are, all sorts of hoops you need to jump through in order to even get started on building an integration. So that is useful context as well there, and that helps us to decide where to put our priorities as well. Let's have a look. Any further questions? Yeah, just a couple of product questions which we've answered really in the chat there. You see any others there, Joe, that we need to cover?
Well, one thing we don't necessarily need to cover, but I just want to reiterate, we've had a message also from Susan saying, oh, I realise this is an AI bot answering the questions. No, it isn't, Susan, it's actually us. So just to reiterate, you ask a question and we are physically here answering them. So, you'll spot type errors and all sorts of things because, we're doing it here whilst we're multitasking. So just to assure you that that is the case, we are actually here, physical, real people. Normally you can see our
even though the cameras don't work.
yeah, annoyingly today they're not working, but yeah, normally you would see us and you would see us getting distracted and typing as well. So yes, we are indeed real people.
I think that's pretty much all of the questions that I've seen come in, other than some product specific ones which we've answered directly. So yeah, that's it for the Q&A, I think.
Susan's just said she's going to sign up after the webinar. Yeah, do it, Susan.
Joe, do you want to talk about what's coming up next?
Yeah, sorry, I was doing that multitasking distracted thing. Yeah, so our next webinar is going to be maximising your in-mail outreach with Dux Soup, which is quite handy because we've had a couple of questions actually about it. So this is, you've identified your target prospects on LinkedIn, but you've got no common connections. So what do? And that's the beauty of an in-mail. With in-mails, you can extend your lead generation beyond your first degree connections to simultaneously target a prospect's LinkedIn inbox as well as their email inbox and their mobile device. So our next webinar on the 21st of January, which will still be in GoToWebinar, and hopefully the video will be working then so you can see it, we'll be covering the benefits of using in-mails and how they differ from direct mails. We'll share our top tips for writing in-mail messages. We'll talk about how to enroll prospects into campaigns from LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and we'll demonstrate how to automate your emails using Dux Soup. And that's same time, same place in 2 weeks on the 21st of January. So I've already shared the link in the chat to register, but I will do it again because why not? There you go, I've just shared it. So sign up now and then you don't need to worry about trying to remember later on. And you'll be able to hopefully see Giles and myself on that session in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I'll take it. Shall I take this one? Yeah. If you're stuck, if you're having problems with Dux Soup and you need some assistance, then our support pages have a whole raft of answers, and also our support team is available via email and live chat. If they can't solve your problem virtually, then we would set up a free support call for you. But we also do provide paid consultancy sessions depending on what you require. Those are run by myself and Scott. So depending on where you are in the world, you get to speak to one of us. And yeah, we'll help you out as much as best we can, depending on what your requirements are.
That's it. I think all that remains is for us to say thanks. Again, Happy New Year. Welcome back, everybody. I've just put a few links on that final slide there for you. So our upcoming webinars, you'll always be able to have a look at on our webinar pages. You can follow us on LinkedIn, and that's our handle there. And I've put the support contact details in there as well. So if you've got any queries, questions, then you can ping an email to info@dux-soup.com, and someone lovely will get back to you and help you. But I'd like to say a big thank you to Will for joining us today. He's we only bring him out for the top prizes. So thanks for joining us today, Will, and sharing your insights for the year. Thanks to Adam, who we also don't see all that often, and thanks to Giles as well for doing the questions today with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to our lovely audience. We'll see you all in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks, everyone, and speak in 2 weeks' time.